So you finally got yourself an emergency fund and you're ready to start investing. But what if I told you that there are a few common mistakes that if you avoid them now could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long term? If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Tyler and I make videos on topics that will improve your life that I wish someone had taught me when I was younger. In today's video, I figured that I would cover some of the most common mistakes that I see people make when they first start investing. I started investing back when I was about 18, and my wife and I now have a combined net worth of over $200,000. But even we made a couple of these mistakes. The earlier that you catch these mistakes, the earlier that you rectify the problem, which can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over the long term. If you want to know what common mistakes to avoid so that you can build wealth, let's go ahead and jump into the video. The first mistake that I feel like a lot of people make is not understanding what their goals are. Depending on what your individual goals are, it's going to differ how you should approach investing. The approach that you will take will differ depending on what you want to do, whether it's building as much wealth as possible or retiring early. These strategies will differ not only in how you invest your money, but where you invest it so that you'll have access to it later, as well as the different strategies that you can use once you start taking that money out. Now, don't get me wrong, investing anything is better than nothing. So if you don't have a solid understanding, just start putting some money into some investments. However, as soon as you can, start understanding what your personal goals are, and then start researching what you need to do in order to reach that. By learning and understanding where and how to invest your money based on what you want to accomplish, you can save yourself millions of dollars down the road. Another really common mistake that I see people make when they first start investing is shiny object syndrome. When most people first start investing, they want to make money as quickly as possible. They're wanting to get the big wins where they either double or triple their money overnight. So they start trying to learn about the next new thing that's going to make them money quickly. And the thing is there's a lot of different things out there that claim that they can do this for you. There is no shortage of online financial influencers who will claim that they have the next big way to make you some money quickly. And usually this is all a lie. Usually these influencers are either making the money off of their own business or through the courses that they're selling, rather than the schemes that they claim will get you rich quickly. The reason that this can be a problem and end up costing you tons of money is, first, you can end up putting your money into investments that really aren't great investments and they just end up losing you money over time. But secondly, you're so focused in chasing after the next shiny object that you never really take the time to dig down and learn one concept in investing very deeply. Usually that's going to be what sets the successful investors apart from the rest of the crowd, is they get really good at whatever it is that they're investing in. And that's usually because they end up putting in a lot of time to do so. If you're constantly chasing after different things, you never really acquire that skill set. You never learn about something well enough to understand if it is a good investment or if it's not worth pursuing. As a result, it ends up wasting a lot of time and money. The next most common mistake is a pretty controversial one in the financial world, and that's going to be using a financial advisor. Now, let me clarify this. You should be using a financial advisor if it is right for you and based on the structure that you approach your finances. For example, fee-only advisors are really the only type of advisors that the FIRE community likes to tout, because you only have to make a one-time payment and you get the advice and knowledge of that financial advisor. This is opposed to a type of advisor called the assets under management, where essentially they get paid by a percentage of how large your portfolio is. So for example, if your agreement is that they will manage your portfolio for 1% of your overall portfolio, that means that if you have a $1 million portfolio, every year they'll get $10,000 of that. Over time, that can really stack up, which could have cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. But here's my thought. It is great to pursue a fee-only financial advisor, but only if it makes sense monetarily. A lot of the better fee-only financial advisors end up charging more money for their time simply because they are in more demand. As a result, if you are going with this type of advisor versus an assets under management advisor, it could potentially cost you more money based on the size of your portfolio. Let's claim that a fee-only advisor is going to charge you $1,500. And then let's say that we just go with our example of the 1% assets under management advisor, but you only have $100,000 in your portfolio. In this case, the fee-only advisor is actually going to end up being more expensive because 1% of 100,000 is just 1,000. But beyond the monetary aspect of it, you should also be thinking about whether or not you want to take the time to really learn how to manage your own portfolio. If it is not worth the time or stress to you, then it might be worth pursuing a financial advisor. But just know that you could be potentially leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table over time as these financial advisors take a cut. I know that personal finance can seem daunting and scary at first, but I promise you, once you kind of get the ball rolling, things start coming easier and easier. And honestly, it's not as scary and complex as it sounds, especially once you just automate things. And speaking of automating things, that's going to bring me to the next most common mistake that I see. And that's going to be forgetting to actually invest the money. What I will see over and over and over again is that people do end up putting money into either their retirement accounts or a brokerage account of some kind. But where the misunderstanding lies is that is not the end of what you need to do to invest your money. When you put money into these accounts, it is essentially just acting as a fancy savings account. It is holding your money. For the money to actually be able to work and grow, you have to choose specific things to invest it in. Once you choose these investments and buy them, that's when your money starts working for you and growing as the value of those investments increases over time. I can't tell you how many different stories I've read and heard about people who had been just automatically putting money into their retirement or their brokerage account and not realizing that they actually had to choose something to invest it in. There are stories out there of people who had been doing this for over 10 years, and so that money was just essentially sitting there, not even keeping up with inflation because it wasn't invested in anything. As a result, they missed out on those 10 plus years of growth, which can have a huge impact on your portfolio and your ability to retire in the future. This was a mistake that I personally made for about the first year that I invested, but luckily I caught it pretty early on. The earlier that you can catch this mistake and address it, the bigger an impact that it's going to have. So please, please, please do not make this mistake. And finally, another common mistake that I see is not taking the time to run the numbers once you have an understanding of what you are going for. In most cases, people are investing in order to retire at some point, whether it's that they want to retire early at 65 or keep working and generate as much wealth as possible. And the thing about working towards retirement is that you need to understand the number that you're working towards so that way you can adjust your savings accordingly. For instance, someone might think that they're doing great by investing $200 a month in the stock market. And while this is a great goal to have, if this person has really high living expenses, by the time that they retire, that $200 a month might not have been enough to get them to a point where they'll be comfortable in retirement. So how do you understand what the number is that you're working for? A general rule of thumb is something called the 4% rule. The 4% rule essentially says that a 4% withdrawal rate from your portfolio is a safe withdrawal rate. This withdrawal rate will allow the portfolio to maintain itself and not really lose any money, so that way it can maintain you through your retirement. Knowing this means that whatever you spend every year needs to equal 4% of your portfolio for you to have a comfortable retirement. For the sake of easy math, if you spend $40,000 a year, that means that you need to have a portfolio of $1 million because 4% of 1 million is 40,000. So what you need to do is determine how much money you think you're going to want to spend in retirement to live a comfortable life. And then your retirement account goals should be to have a portfolio where 4% of that portfolio is your annual spend. Now, obviously, this is not financial advice. You should do your own research and approach this in the way that you feel most comfortable with, and make sure that you consult financial professionals before you do this kind of approach. But once you have that understanding of your numbers, you know what you're working towards, and that can allow you to adjust your savings so that you reach it at whatever point that you want. If you're able to live off of $40,000 and you just want to retire by traditional retirement age, you have to invest much less per month in order to reach that goal, as compared to someone who either wants to live off of $200,000 a year or maybe wants to retire 10 years earlier. Understanding the number that you're working towards and the savings rate that you need in order to achieve that is critically important to ensure that you're going to have a happy retirement. So make sure you take the time to actually try and understand the numbers that you are working towards. By avoiding these 5 common mistakes, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and money later down the road and ease your journey into whatever retirement looks like for you. If you found the information in this video to be helpful or informative, please be sure to like and subscribe to join me along in this self-improvement journey. If you have any of your own thoughts, ideas, or opinions, please be sure to let me know with a comment down below, as I like to read and respond to all of them. If you're interested in more videos like this one where I talk about money-related topics, be sure to check out this video right here where I talk about 3 things that cost more money than you realize. If you're interested in more of my most recent stuff, be sure to check out this video right here. But until the next time, this is Tyler Warlow, signing off.